7 o'clock, please rise for the pledge to the flag.
With allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, thanks everybody for showing up. I was hoping for a bigger turnout, but we've got some out of township people here. We welcome them to the meeting. And Sean's going to give us a presentation on Be Ready Neighborhood, so might as well go for it. All right.
All right, so this program is just like anything else, was brought up by Homeland Security, federal government, and has been adopted by St. Clair County Emergency Management. And they've done some tweaks to it to make it more specific to St. Clair County, but essentially it's a 72-hour preparedness and awareness. And what does that mean for you guys? Just like anything that we've talked about, that understanding the more prepared you are for any emergency or anything going on around you, the better off you're going to be. Oftentimes, just like anything, how many times has anybody had a flat tire and gone to change it out and realized that either they didn't have the tools they needed, or maybe they had a their battery died in their car and they didn't either have jumper cables. Something as simple as that, but that can trickle out to a big event, right? I know I've done the exact same thing. My battery dies, I don't have a jumper cables or a battery box. Or I never checked the spare tire after I bought it, and the spare tire was garbage, right? So now you find yourself in a worse off situation than you would have been before if you were prepared for any situation, right? So we don't want to wait till after emergency to become prepared. We want to think about these things beforehand, okay? What types of things are we looking at to be prepared for, right? Severe weather, right? It's Michigan, wait 5 minutes, the weather's going to change. Tomorrow it's going to be, Florida style weather, and then it'll snow the next day. We really never know, but these are the things that we want to be prepared for. Flooding, we're definitely not immune to flooding, especially in these areas. Whether it's down here, we just had a couple of roads that got completely closed out over the weekend from the snow thawing out, ice jams and everything like that. Hazardous materials release, the fact that we're so close to 94. I remember a few years ago I sat on 94 for 14 hours. We completely locked the road down. We had to disperse a lot of people in the area because anhydrous ammonia tanker would roll over. And we all know that anhydrous ammonia is something that's really fun to deal with and hang out with, right? And then terrorism. Now that we have things that are going on around us, terrorism can really be anything. Terrorism is just defined as something that causes fear and havoc amongst the population, whether it's big or small, okay? So why do we pick 72 hours? Okay, 72 hours is kind of a good foothold that you can either be away from your house or locked down inside of your house before help can come to you. It kind of seems like we have a lot of people around that can help, but when it breaks down by the numbers, we see that becomes more and more difficult. Out of the 721 square miles that St. Clair County encompasses and the approximately 160,000 residents, there's one law enforcement officer per 1,000. Now that's just not St. Clair County Sheriff's Department. We're talking MSP, or Michigan State Police. We're talking about, Marysville Police Department, City of Port Huron Police Department. And in a big event, everybody kind of gets enacted and everybody moves all over the place. We've had major incidences as far as KPAC, and Marysville and Port Huron Police Department are responding out there. So don't think just because they're not necessarily tied to us, so they don't patrol this area, doesn't mean that those aren't groups of law enforcement that doesn't get enacted into our area. Same thing with the fire department and EMS. For every one firefighter in the area, there's 275 people that they're kind of in charge of, right? That gets broken down. Like I said, I'm a paid on call firefighter. There's many of us that are paid on call firefighters all over the place, so that seems to disperse things a lot. The downside when you start getting into that is I'm only one person trying to do 2 or 3 different factions, so I got to pick the one that seems to work out the best. Same thing with EMS, for every one person, for every one paramedic EMT is 2,000 people in the community that they're essentially responsible for taking care of. So this program kind of talks about 3 different things that we want to do to become prepared. I think personally, I feel this is kind of in reverse, right? The one thing we want to do is kind of be informed. Basically, be informed of the things that could happen in our area. We talked about the weather things; those are kind of easy things that we deal with on a yearly basis. We understand how the weather's patterns change, but maybe things like that we never thought about before, like what happens if something happens on 94 and we got a shelter in place for a couple of days, or we have major flooding, or different things like that that is unique to your personal lives and your personal houses that may be different to my own that you have to think about in your own house, right? So when you decide on those different things that you have to be prepared for, then you can go ahead and start making those kits specific to you, not only for your vehicle, but for your home. And then along with that is kind of make a plan on what it is that you want to do. So going back to the kits, you can do one of 2 things, right? We can go to Walmart, Casco, Sam's Club, Meijer. You pick a box store, you can probably find it, and they have kits all over the place. As far as car kits, I've seen them as elaborate, that have everything in it, going back to the jumper cables, triangles, even some bandages and things like that go inside of your vehicle, lug nuts, wrenches, kind of you name it. The bigger the box, obviously, the bigger the things that you'll have in there. And that kind of goes back to planning, right? Do you have a small commute to where you need to go? Is it just around the corner? Maybe you only need a couple things because usually you're only going as far around the block as your own community. Maybe you're like my spouse and she drives 200 miles in a day, right? I mean, you got to make those decisions on what you want, so that kind of goes back to planning. Same thing with the home kits, okay? What kind of a home kit do you want? Usually recommended some type of AM, FM radio. Thinking back to 2003, when we lost power in this entire side of the United States, they didn't really have very good backup generators for the radio towers. So a lot of cell phone services, those of us who had pagers at the time, those things didn't work out very well. So if you didn't have a landline, which those are going far and few between now, the ability to communicate with anybody kind of went out. So to get messages and listen to what's going on around us, it's still good to have an AM/FM radio because those still work. The transponders for those are run off their own generators when the power went down. On the same token, figuring out any other way that you might have to have communication. Okay, I know I don't have a landline, but do I know of places that I can access where there might be a landline for an emergency, for the use of an emergency, right? Different type of medical supplies that you feel that you might need for your family. If you have specific allergies or specific medications that you need, maybe having some of those in a kit that you're always cycling through. So they're not getting expired, you're still using them, but it's just a little bit of extra. So if you know that you're running out of medications and it just happens to be that day that you were supposed to get them filled and they're super important, and now you can't leave your house, at least you have 3 days worth of medications that you guys can take. Same thing with light source. When the power goes out, like it did on Sunday, maybe you don't have a backup generator, but who knows how long the power's gonna be out. Maybe it might be 1 day, 3 days, 5 days. We need to be able to figure out those things and be able to see so we're not bumping into each other when we're walking through the hallway. First aid kits. If you don't have one in your house, it's always a good idea to have one of some extent. I think those of us who have kids seem to have a bigger first aid kits than those of us who don't. I myself, for about 1 million different reasons, have about 15 first aid kits all over the place. Not just for myself, but for anybody else that I come in contact with. Like I said, I've been doing EMS and firefighting since 2002. So that's just more than law enforcement. That's always in the back of my head on top of that. So that seems to get more use than anything else. So the other big thing that it brings up is bug out bags. For those of you who don't know what a bug out bag, it's as simple as having or what I like to call a go bag. If something goes bad and you need to leave the house like immediately to either seek shelter somewhere else or leave the area for whatever reason, like I said, in the anhydrous ammonia spill, we had to actually evacuate a large number of people and figure out where they were going to go. And the figuring out where they were going to go is something we had to do for those that didn't have a secondary plan, that didn't have a plan on where they were going to go. So in the time frame for that, we learned a lot of things on that. The time frame that we happen to have was a little bit more than some incidents could have. But at the end of the day, when you have a bug out bag ready to go, it's any type of supplies that you may need to have to live outside of your house for 72 hours, right? It's something that's easily accessible. Maybe it's in your attic, but your attic is easy to go. Something that you keep up there. You can grab, throw in the car, head out. Maybe it's something you keep in your car. Again, that goes back to planning. And it goes back to what is it that you think that you need supply-wise to be outside of your house. Anybody who's ever seen those shows, Preppers, they're thinking like end of the world thing, end of the world concepts that they have to live out in the wilderness by themselves, anything like that for, indefinitely. It's up to you and your family as to how far into that you want to go, but there's no wrong answer, right? So again, make those plans, make those determinations, and then set up the equipment that you need in your house to facilitate those plans that you've made. Another big thing is meeting places. So if a major event happens and you can't communicate with each other, where are you going to go? Okay. Up until very recently, some things have happened in our lives, in my house, that we've now had to change where our meeting place is going to be. We haven't made a good plan yet, but for the longest time we knew what it was going to be depending on what the incident was. One of the locations was about 3 hours away, but we knew that no matter where each other were and where our kids were, that we could all make it to the same spot and be there within 3 hours. And if we weren't there in 5, we knew something was up, right? Same thing, for those of you who may or may not know what ALICE training is, there's a training that's going on with schools that, especially with all the school shootings and things like that, that are having a way to teach, to educate teachers as well as the students on what to do in active shooter situations or major events along that lines. With that being said, kind of just bringing my own personal things into it, my children, because if something were to happen at a school, right, and the kids get dispersed, not necessarily is that one teacher going to be able to see 30 kids when something major is going on in school. Their big responsibility is to make sure the kids are away from the danger, not really where they are accountability. That goes into it, but not right away. So for my kids have our own meetings place. I don't care about the school, because if something that big is going on, I can expect that the teachers may not know where all the kids are right away, and I'd rather know that, and my kids have a safe spot that they can be at, and I can pick them up 2 hours afterwards. Right? So that's something, again, going back to us, that we can sit down and make a plan for, no matter what goes on in our world. My kids know what's going on, right? So, it gets as in depth of when we're out and about, and just because of what I do, if I see something that's not right, I deal with people on a regular basis, whether they've worst case scenario, if they've had to go to jail. There's several times that I go to school to pick my kids up, and the guy that is arrested 2 days later is in the same pickup line, right? It's a small community, we all live around each other, so it's not unheard of. With that being said, we've gotten to the point where we planned out code words and things like that, so that if something bad's going on around me, because I'm now in civilian clothes, and they decide that they're gonna try to do something to me, my kids have code words that they do something with, right? So it goes back to planning, right? Make all these plans, make these ideas as in depth as you can get them. But it's not just that, it's making sure that you practice these. So on a regular basis, really updating what's going on, what your plans are, where your bags are, right? Keeping these things current, okay? One of the things, going back to communications, that FEMA has set up, you can actually go on the FEMA website, and they have a communications plan. So in that is actually a hard copy. You guys, as families, can sit down and write these out, whether you want everybody to carry them on their person, or use it as a jumping off point to make ideas or plans or talk about where it is that we want to go, what's our emergency contact, where's our meeting place. If it's large scale, where do we go? If it's small scale, what do we want to do? If it's medium scale, what's our next plan? If we can't communicate, where's our meeting point, regardless of what it is, so that way we can meet up and then make the next plan, right? So on the FEMA website, there's a lot of those data and software that you can utilize for home. And I actually looked at it today, and it's done very, very well. Having some out-of-town contacts. Like I said, we had our meeting spot that was 3 hours away, and that was because that was our out-of-town contact. That's no longer available for us, and now we're just figuring something else out. But if you have that out-of-town contact, whether you can communicate with them or you already have a plan in place, if something happens, again, always thinking about, well, what if I can't make that phone call out, right? At least you have that spot, either out of town, maybe it's the cabin, maybe it's, Uncle Sue or Aunt Sue that lives up, by Mackinac, whatever the case may be. At least you have something in place that even if you can't make a phone call, you can find a way to get up there, right? For that reason. And then, like I said, keeping it current, not just keeping everything current data-wise as far as writing things down or checking out your bug-out bag or checking out your first aid kit or making sure that your night bag's ready to go at a moment's notice, but also talking about it with your family. Kids, like I keep bringing up my kids, they're really resilient. They love playing games and having fun with this kind of stuff. So every once in a while, out of nowhere, either myself or my wife will ask them weird questions, and this is just like a practice. Okay, so if this happened, where are you going to go? All right, so like once in a while, we'll have fun. We'll take them to school. Like, all right, so if you have to run out the room, where are you going? Where's our meeting spot? And they gotta run through and show me where the meeting spot is, right or wrong. Like, and we just figure it out. So the more that you practice with it, the more that you understand what's going on, the more that you talk about it with your family. Does it have to be an everyday thing? No, but it does have to be something. Could it be something that you just drop on each other every once in a while? Like, hey, where did we decide we were going to go? If this happened, or if it was large scale, and then make those determinations. What you consider large scale, medium scale, and just keep talking about it. So, a couple of things we talked about earlier as far as being informed. Remember we talked about having a radio, some type of radio where you can listen to AM and FM channels. The closer ones, WSAQ, WGRT, those are out of Port Huron. Those, when the power went out, they had a generator that was able to kick out their broadcast frequency out this bar. Same thing with Sarnia, 102. I can't remember their frequency, but Sarnia is pretty good about being able to broadcast frequencies, broadcast information about what's going on over on our side of the creek, not just what's going on over there. So we can still hear what's going on in Michigan and St. Clair County just from hearing what's going on over there in Sarnia. Another good thing, Facebook and Twitter, and we'll talk a little bit more about the emergency management side of Facebook. But be ready, stclaircounty.org is another good resource for things that are going on in the area. Warning information network system. There are several locations in St. Clair County where you can purchase a WINS system. And what it is essentially is a box that gets plugged into your outlet, keeps it charged, and if there's power outage, it still picks up a frequency, and it's a lot like a narrow bandwidth fire pager. Okay, so when those tones get activated out, it opens up that broadcast, and it will give you some kind of broadcast of the weather that's coming on, whether it's tornado, severe weather, shear winds, anything that might be going on. This will allow you to hear what's going on, even when our phone systems don't work. So when we can't get internet, we can't get anything that would normally alert us on our phones. This is another secondary system inside the house that, or wherever you're at, that will allow you to hear what's going on. I know emergency management had them. Last I knew, they were trying to disperse them out to the different fire departments to have them sell off the boxes. The sale price, I don't know off the top of my head exactly what they were, but I know at the time it was, the cost to buy them was what the cost was to get them from the county. So nobody's making money on these. There is a cost to them, but it's not anything nobody getting rich off of it. I know for a fact Port Huron Township still had them, but check with your local fire departments if that's something that you're interested in getting at. Again, stay near carry a cell phone, but if that goes out, trying to know where there's a landline that we can get at. Be an e-reporter. So a while ago, the St. Clair County Emergency Management had set up some programs online for all of those who are familiar with hashtagging. I had to have my daughter explain that to me today, what hashtagging is, which is embarrassing for me because I didn't think I was that out of the loop. But at any rate, this is a way for those who are out and about in your area, because what happens in Casco Township, what happens in China Township, what happens in Ira, what happens in St. Clair Township, the list goes on and on, might be area specific. right? It might only cover the, 5, 6, 8 square miles. It might not reach up to Yale. What's going on in Yale might not reach down here, right? So this kind of gives us a way to see what's going on and share that with people in the community. And this is anything that you want to post as far as hail, storm damage that's going on, any major flooding, any cloud formation.
Is that like the text messages that I get all the time, and they want me to reply yes if I'm actually having a severe storm?
Winds.
Yeah, winds, 'cause I
Yeah.
got that a lot over the last weekend.
And what's that one through?
Um,
Now that may
It's
be
the St. Clair County winds winter storm, I got a winter storm warning, and then they want me to reply yes, I get an email too. And
okay.
if I reply to the email after I've said yes to this, instantly I get a, no, you've already replied.
Is that through
St. Clair County, yeah, I signed up for it a couple years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yep.
Yeah, so it is the same thing.
Just like anything, technology continues to change. So we're trying to keep up with the times. I don't know all the things that they have available. I know there's a lot on that note. If there's ever anything that you guys are interested in and have questions about, get with me and get Mr. Bungarden, and I'll find out the answer for you and get them to you as soon as we can. But the hashtag here is right here on the bottom. SCC, St. Clair County, Michigan, MI, STORM. So hashtag SCC, MI, STORM, and you can post all those. I talked too long and it already shut off on me.
Log back in, come on.
Alright. So, Be Ready St. Clair County, both on Facebook and Twitter. Again, it uses that hashtag SCCMISTORM. Anything that you see there, like you see the large hailstorms, severe, any tornado activity, any funnel clouds, just the cloud formations themselves. Sometimes just sending that in, whether you're sure what it is or not sure. It's always something to post up, and somebody can look at that and kind of get an idea of what's going on. Flooding, like I said, we're not immune to any type of flooding, whether it's large or small, in any area. And then reference this that just remember that no matter what's going on, don't put yourself in danger just to get a good picture or to let everybody else know. If your life's more important than anything else, at the end of the day, if you're trying to take a picture to try to help other people out, now you put yourself as a victim to the storm, and we're adding more and more people for that reason onto the list of those that have to be rescued or saved or whatnot. So don't put yourself in a spot where it could get you hurt just for social media. And that's it. Any questions? Comments, concerns?
I have a comment. When I was in college in the early 2000s, I used to keep a small piece of paper in my wallet that had a lot of my friends' phone numbers on, because back when the cell phones weren't that great, the battery could die at any time.
Right.
And thinking about it now, I need to do that again, because I've become so dependent on using my cell phone to call people that if someone were to ask me what my mother's cell phone number was, I couldn't tell you. So if my phone dies and I'm in an emergency and I need to borrow somebody else's phone, I don't even know who I would call. So keeping a piece of paper that has phone numbers on it that are important is a good thing to keep. Also, with you talking about landlines going away, I work for AT&T. AT&T is really pushing people to get off the old landline system, which was powered by our central offices, which had batteries in it, which would keep your phones going in a power outage. And same with Comcast, they now are pushing the voice over IP, which is basically an internet phone. Internet phone is good, it saves you money, but if your power goes out, your phones go out with it. And not a lot of people realize that. I go to tons of jobs every year where customers don't realize that when the power goes out, their phone goes out with it. You can buy battery backup units from places like Meijer, Best Buy. It's a little box, you plug it into the wall, plug your modem into it, and that will keep your phone line running. It's usually pretty limited. It's only like maybe 4 to 8 hours depending on what the battery backup system is that you get. But if you don't have like a home generator to keep things going, it's something to keep in mind if the phone company or Comcast has pushed you to get rid of your old school landline and go to the new internet voice over IP landline. It still looks like a landline phone because it plugs in your wall outlet, but there's a big misconception that that'll keep running if the power goes out. It doesn't. Only the old school POTS, as we call it, plain old telephone service, still runs off the central office battery backup units. So it's something to keep in mind. I tell my customers all the time, go to Meijer, go to Best Buy, pick up a battery backup, because at least then if the power only goes out for a couple hours, you have an emergency, you can still use your landline to make a phone call. So it's something to keep in mind.
And I think with that being said, my outtake from this when I had gone through when I looked through it the first time was that everybody's home situation is different. Everybody's thought of what an emergency is completely different. So whatever you decide to do as far as your planning, that's up to you, right? So you want to make this as big as and grand as you want to, great. You want to make it small and minimal, that's cool too. There's no right or wrong answer. It's just whatever you feel comfortable at the end of the day that's going to be able to mitigate whatever situation. On that note, in your own mind, you have to be able to decide what it is that you're able to or capable of taking care of, right? So for us, in our house, we have different radio access and things like that where I'm not worried about, or when I make our plans for our house, it's 100% based on no cell phone communication whatsoever. No phone communication, like what can we do without a phone if we had to, right? So when I said we make plans knowing that we can make it to here in so much time and we could make it here in so much time or any of those things, that was because our plan was based on no cell phone communication. Something major happens at the school, my kids have to bug out, I know where to pick them up at because they don't have a way of communicating with me. Everything's based on an understanding of, waiting, getting to this point and waiting, right? My way is not necessarily right or wrong. That's just what we've done, and our house feels comfortable with it. Everybody is going to be able to make those own judgment and know that whenever they're done, whatever situation goes on, are they going to feel comfortable with that emergency, with the tools that they've set themselves up with. So.
Is a copy of your presentation on the net?
On FEMA's website?
Yes.
No, it's not. No, like I said, this was
You
set
have
up.
a lot of good websites and other.
Yep. Now, with that being said, if you were to go to FEMA's website, they have a lot of useful information referencing how to be prepared, how to set yourself up, things like that. But no, this one is specific for our county. With that being said, go to FEMA. They might have some ideas that I haven't thought of myself or haven't looked into, or things that might be more useful to you than there are to them, or vice versa, right? So it's a very good resource for ideas.
Well, Anita got it too, so it should be on YouTube in a few days for people that wasn't here.
Right.
They couldn't be here, they can watch it. So
No, that's good.
that'll be a good thing too. So anything else related to that, or that pretty well it for the 72-hour?
Unless anybody has anything else with that, we kind of move on to what's been going on in the area. If we want, we can kind of round robin it and see anybody think of anything that's been kind of going on that they've seen or has made them go, We talked about we actually brought up the last meeting of trying to figure out a way that we can communicate those. Short of calling our dispatch, which we talked about, we're more than happy to take anybody's call for something small or big. But was there something that we kind of thought about as having an idea either through your Facebook page or anything that we could?
Well, there's been people posting on there, it's like, was it last week?
Oh, yeah,
Some
the
roofing
booms.
guy was going around selling roofs or something,
Oh.
dumping people off, and then they'd go down and got a few calls on that, or
He had an unmarked vehicle and wasn't
Yeah.
wearing any ID and,
Okay.
yeah.
Now, with that being said, does your township have an ordinance that if you are selling door to door, you have to come in to be registered?
I don't think we do.
I think so though, because I used to work for a contractor for Comcast and we weren't allowed in Casco. And we were over on the other side of Heathway, and one of my salesmen called me and said he walked up to somebody's house and he heard he was met by a shotgun.
Sure.
So, there was no sale there. I said,
Sure.
that's right.
Yeah.
But no, they wouldn't give us a solicitation permit in Casco. And then, Comcast doesn't have lines up and down everywhere anyway, so.
Right. So we have found that people are starting to use website posting.
Oh yeah, they're
Some stuff.
posted
Good.
on there.
Yeah, did we ever find out what those 2 booms were last Thursday?
No, I never found out nothing.
Because I heard that quite a bit
Yeah.
at night, and it reminded, and I posted on Facebook that it reminded me of my first husband down when we lived in Warren. He used to play with the balloons and acetylene, and him and his best friend would light the balloons, and yes, it shook the entire neighborhood. That's what it reminded me of. People playing.
Sure. I do know that I've seen some tannerite being used in the general area. Whether that's the case or not, I know we were talking about that before, that some people were using tannerite, just like fireworks. Actually, it's worse than fireworks because when we get a noise complaint, I don't know. It's not like you can see it when you're driving around like, oh, there it is. Just follow the trail of smoke, right? Like it's usually well contained and
Not-
short-lived. And,
One of the things that I'm concerned with, turkey season's opening up, right?
Mhm.
And, I don't know how everybody else's property is, but mine's a half-mile deep. And there's some people over on Springboard that I don't know what direction they're at, but it sounds like they're shooting cannons. So when they start shooting, it's like, I'm not even sure I want to walk back in my backyard. But after that shooting where that lady got shot in her house, I mean, is there anything where we can remind people, make
Yeah,
sure you
and
have
Dunn Road
something,
and Riley.
if you're target practicing, your bullets aren't gonna fly somewhere?
So
Because, I don't like walking on Belgium with my dog for obvious reasons, so I prefer walking in my property.
So the DNRs have, the downside is nowhere have I found, and I just haven't found it, that's not to say it's not out there, but I have not found a specific dimension
Right.
or physical size that a berm has to be. It just has to be one of those things where when you look at it, according to the DNR website, when you look at it, you can say, yep, that would stop whatever it is that you're shooting.
Because we have a really large one, because when Telto's dug our pond, they made us a really nice big hill, and it's like twice as tall as I am, so.
Sure.
But most of the time we target practice up in our cabin, because they have a designated spot. But I don't know what those guys are shooting, but it's
Right.
loud.
If you ever have a concern we've gone out to check them and say yeah or no, but like at the end of the day, the DNR has the biggest say on any type of shooting.
Right. And I've had poachers on my land before, and I actually took them all myself, and then they went around and told everybody some asshole was in the back, and it's my property, go away.
Right.
It's like, yeah, I
Yep.
don't want you hunting there.
And again, and I don't like shucking things off to other departments, but when it comes to anything hunting wise, like the DNR has
Right.
way more power and clout than we ever will. Other than trespassing things.
And I've heard they can be there really quick too.
Yep, depending on where they're at, yeah,
Mhm.
they seem to be. And that's not to say that I haven't, myself been
Right.
involved in getting people charged, criminally charged for different things, for trespassing and not hunting without a
Right,
license.
because I know there's always evidence that somebody's in the back of our property, because, all of ours over there all goes back that far. And I'm always finding beer cans that aren't mine and other things, and so
Right.
we know people are going back there. I just don't want to be back there when they're there.
Sure, sure. No, I mean, with that being said too, don't ever hesitate if you got like this weird suspicion that somebody's back there, give us a call or call the sheriff's office and they'll dispatch for Michigan State Police, for us, for DNR, they got somebody they can get a hold of.
And I travel with a cell phone and a camera. I have phone at all times, so I got my camera with me too, while you're photo taking.
Right, and I think I brought it up before too, as far as trail cameras. We've had a lot of luck with trail cameras strategically placed everywhere.
Right.
So, we're great for finding,
Mailbox fashion, we lost ours.
Yep, that too. Depends on what your biggest concern is. If you got concerns with people that are always, poaching or doing anything in the backyard, you're gonna see some awesome deer, some turkey, and that one
You
guy
know,
that's
because
always.
I leave my trail cam out there and then I switch out the card, and I swear the deer, they pose for photos.
Sure.
It's like they're smiling at it every time.
Yep. So.
I've been trying to get coyote photos, but I can't catch them. They go behind the camera.
Right. I think I know where they're at. Yep, trail cameras are big because then that always helps us as far as evidence stuff goes. But on the same token, if you ever feel like somebody's back there that's not supposed to be, or you hear something or whatnot, always just give a call and we'll find out whether it's us or if we can get a hold of DNR or whatever.
Okay.
Whoever the best person to mitigate that situation is.
Yeah, because my neighbor to the north, he said that he actually saw somebody walking from up at his house once, but he thought it was me. I said, no, I was at work.
And that was all last year, just starting up again this year, right?
Well, the loud shooting was this year, but I quit working like almost 2 years ago, so it was before that time.
We actually had a gentleman from Chesterfield stop at our farm. It was either earlier this week or late last week. Came to the door, knocked, was very polite, and just said who he was, gave his name, said he was from Chesterfield. He was out looking for people that would allow him to coyote hunt. And, I wasn't...
Place. Nice guy.
Yeah, I wasn't home at the time, but my mom actually stated, there's actually people that are already hunting here, so, that the land's kind of spoken for. And he said that was fine, and he was very polite, but I gave him props for coming to the door and asking.
And asking instead of just
going,
stand in your house and
yeah.
go, who are all those orange vests out there?
Well, I live on my grandfather's farm, and my grandfather years ago used to let people come out and hunt. And after he passed away, it was a few years after he passed away, one day some guy just pulled in our driveway and started driving back to the woods.
He's always
We
hunting
chased
there.
him down, and we're like, who are you? What are you doing? And he goes, well, I got permission to hunt here. Well, by who?
Yeah.
Well, Wally said I can hunt here. Well, dude, Wally's been dead for like 5 years. You need to stop at the house and ask before this. And he was pretty upset with us that we wouldn't let him hunt. And it's like, well, you got to respect it. You can't just show up and go where you think you can go.
That's what these guys were doing, and it was on opening day of deer season, and I was working for the UAW at the time, and I had that day off. And we had just gotten occupancy in our house the day before, so it was a brand new house.
Yeah.
And I looked out the back door, it's like, well, what's all that?
Yeah. Yep. These guys, they were setting up around the whole, block. They had dogs running through people's
Right.
property
These
and
guys
stuff.
did too, especially during
Yeah,
the
there was a whole bunch
Christmas.
of them, and they were not happy with us that we told them that they couldn't do it. And well, what about our dogs? Well, you shouldn't let your dogs run loose. It's not like it was years ago when there was only a half a dozen farms on a square mile. You
Right.
got people building houses all the time now. There's a lot more population, a lot
And you
more
got the
people.
little kids that are running around.
Yeah,
and all that.
exactly. But I gave this guy props for, introducing himself, seeing who he was, where he was from, and asking permission. And, he kind of mentioned, do you know of anybody else? And we were kind of like, well, it's far and from around here because there is so many more people. A lot
Right,
of the
and
bigger
then we
lands
have
get split up.
We have like 40 vacant acres. It's an odd shape that's to the south of us. And if I see somebody's truck or something parked there, I leave sticky notes with my cell phone number and I say, text me when you're gonna be back there, and I won't walk back there.
Yeah.
Because I know they're legitimately hunting back there, and I don't wanna
Yeah.
mess with them or be in the way of a deer running.
Yeah.
So, one guy, he said his son shot a deer, but it took off and they didn't know where it was, so he wanted to know if he could look for it. And I said, that's the kind of stuff I don't mind.
Yeah.
If I know you're back there,
Yep.
but if I could get caught by surprise, nobody wants me back there, and I don't want to run into them, because the property's only 200 feet wide, so it's narrow, so, it's like, okay.
Yeah.
If my neighbor's hunting on his land, tell me, I won't go back there. If this guy's hunting, I won't go back there. Although if you want me to chase the deer your way, I can do that.
So have you got anything that's been going
So-
on lately, or?
No, everything's kind of
A woman who was shot in her house.
Oh, that was that, not Armada, where was it? Where?
Riley.
Riley Township, that's what it was, yeah.
By
Yeah,
some hunter, straight
no,
bullet.
it was a guy that lived right behind her, he was target practicing. Stray bullet went right through her vinyl sided house and got her while she was sitting at the kitchen table.
Okay.
That was a month ago, month and a half?
Yeah.
It was a high-powered rifle, it
Yeah.
wasn't a shotgun.
No, it wasn't your typical hunting gun.
Not a shotgun.
Not at any
Well,
time.
That's why I'm worried about those people that I hear off to the south.
Without saying too much about that case,
Yeah.
that goes back to those who have guns being responsible in how they target practice,
Yes.
right? And then making sure that what they're shooting at will stop that round.
Or the ricochet.
So there's a lot more in depth to that than it's kind of more complex, but at the end of the day, like that's a simple answer that would rectify the situation. Nothing, everything seems to be kind of the same as it was last time. I was only able to just kind of look at the stats. I wasn't able to get them printed out. But the calls to 911 are kind of the same. They're going up a little bit. I think just because relatively the weather's getting warmer. I mean, it's still,
Occasionally.
Yeah.
still
Occasionally.
right. I think. Well, did you guys all enjoy summer? Because now it's fall, so welcome to that. But that's going up a little bit. Some of the suspicious activity, which again, that was kind of the whole point of bringing these meetings up, is we'd rather have the increase in 911 calls for suspicious activity and us find nothing, right, than not calling and then stuff happening. So we're finding that the stuff happening is less and less. I don't worry too much about traffic stops and accidents because a lot of those seem to be off of 94. There's some back road traffic accidents with some car versus deer and things like that, but by and large, a lot of the stuff, like I said, you guys get eaten up with the trailer park and with some of the stuff that goes on down there, which is specific to that area, right? It's almost like a town in itself, and then the fact that we have 94 that runs, that cuts you guys right in half. So some of the stuff that we see as far as our dispatching setup is based on those two areas. So it's kind of hard sometimes to try to separate what's going on there with what's going on in the actual sleeping bed of the community. But like I said, the calls to us to come out and check stuff out is increasing, which is kind of what I was hoping for to see. And the things that are actually happening as far as break-ins in cars and things like that are on the decline. So having us out there and knowing where to go seems to be working a lot. Because like I said, we don't have a magic crystal ball where we get to a four-way, a stop sign with a light, and it's like, I don't know if I'm gonna make a left or a right, but if I've had a few calls in that area, right, I'm gonna go to that area. Good.
Are there any concerns about hazardous materials on the rail line that runs west of Gratiot, I'm sorry? You've seen reports in the papers about some very serious accidents on railroads where oil trains have exploded, burning up whole towns and so on. Not really,
So-
I love the train, but
So after this meeting's done, I'll tell you.
why not during the meeting?
I'll explain why after the meeting.
Okay,
So we'll get to that in a little
sounds
bit.
interesting.
Yep. So that answer will go along with the 94 corridor too.
Pardon?
So anything else that anybody can kind of sees or feels like they're concerned about? If the website's working out good, then we'll try to make sure that a few of us are hitting that often to see what's coming up and things like that, and you can try to get cars down in this area and hit on hot spots. So
My biggest concern, and it probably involves both townships. With the weather getting warmer, we're getting a lot more people walking the roads, for exercise, taking their dogs out. But it's also, I've seen a very large increase of speeding cars on back roads. I've got two vehicles in particular that we actually gave information to the sheriff that came to our township meeting on Thursday, Monday, we gave him a write-up that we got of the name of a driver and his address, who's driving 80, 90 miles an hour every morning at 7:15 in front of my house. The same thing when he comes home. There's two vehicles in specific, but we gave that information to the sheriff. Like he said, unfortunately, their time frame is 10 to 10. No one's out there in the morning to catch this guy. Just yesterday on my way to work, if you don't get out of his way, he will do what he can to run you off the road, basically. He got behind me, he's swerving left and right. Very erratic, reckless driving, and it's become an everyday event. So we're trying to get something done about this kid. But I've noticed that even today, I went to AutoZone in Marine City, going down Indian Trail, and I follow the speed limit because I have to. I've got a license for driving a work vehicle. If I lose that license, I lose my job. So I try and follow the rules as close as I can. And the speeding of these vehicles, even on the main roads, has become unbelievable. Doing 60 is almost dangerous because they're going 70, 80, and if you don't get out of their way, they're running you off the road. And it seems to be,
Oh, yeah. There's a lot.
it's getting bad, especially on the dirt roads. We got a lot of potholes, with the rain and the bad weather, and I hate to see someone crash, but like this kid in particular, if he rolls his truck, I'm probably just gonna keep driving by, because it's an everyday occurrence that, and it's not just me in particular, there's other residents on the road that are like, have you seen this
Oh,
guy?
yeah, because when I was still working, they get so close behind my pickup truck that I couldn't even see
Yeah.
back there.
There was
and
a-
there's 3 people, and I know exactly where they live on Melbourne.
There was a-
Same 3.
There was a gentleman walking down the road, and this kid came flying up, and I don't know if he just didn't see him or if he just didn't care, but he waited to the very last second to swerve. He missed the guy by about 6 inches. And the guy's just minding his own business walking down the road, and he passed him at 80 mile an hour. I was trying to rake stones off my grass into the road the other day, so I'm kind of near the shoulder.
Right.
And most people, if they see it, they'll slow down. I had a guy went by so fast, he kicked up a rock and hit me in the side of the head practically, and there's little care for people that are out, and it concerns me because pretty soon you're gonna have people with horses out there too, riding, but it's getting really bad in our township. I don't know how bad it is in Casco,
What's
but
that? Take it from me.
and I understand the speed limit is 55, so you can't really do anything about the people going 55 because technically an unposted road is 55,
but
but
when you're wearing
it's-
a bright colored orange hat or bright color orange something, and you see somebody coming down the road, and it looks like they're aiming right at you.
oh yeah.
And you find out they're on their cell phone and not paying any attention to you. That's why I carry my camera. I got lots of photos, because one of these days,
Yeah, it's-
and I've almost had my dog almost got hit a couple times,
Yeah.
and she's right there next to me, but she's just slightly out further. And then some people pull out of their driveways and don't look. I
Yeah.
almost got hit by the neighbor.
It just seems to me like
Hello.
with the warming weather, and probably because, when you have snow and ice on the ground, people take it a little bit slower, but with the warming weather, the speed of people around has really gotten kind of out of hand, and the sheriff kind of made a comment at the township meeting that kind of struck me as odd. He commented that he doesn't really like to write tickets, and it's like, yeah, I can kind of understand that, but it's getting pretty bad. I don't know really what we can do about it either. Especially this one kid, guaranteed 7:15 in the morning, he's going to pass my house at 80 mile an hour, 90 mile an hour. He lives a mile down the road from me. I can text him that the kid's coming, and by the time he receives the text, he's already blown by his house. And it's really, I don't know if we can get the state. I've even offered sit at my shop and hide behind the shop and wait for the kid. I don't know if we can get the states to come patrol or something. Right. I imagine he's probably got some warrants. He looks like a real winner, so. Yeah. But I don't. We're kind of at a loss of what to do about it. Generally people are pretty good about taking it easy, but this one kid in particular he's got a lot of the neighbors pretty ticked off with his erratic driving. Like I said, it's not necessarily that he's driving fast. He'll come up flying on your butt, and he'll get right on your bumper, and like I said, he'll do everything he can to almost run you off the road to get around you. He'll blow the stop sign at Indian Trail and Lindsay like it's not even there, just right around the corner, and he's gone. You won't even see him again. So that's our biggest concern, and our township, which is kind of the reason why I wanted to come here and express my concern, because we haven't had our neighborhood watch, you know, and I hate to be the old man on the road that yells at, you know, slow down, you kids, you know, but it's
Somebody's gonna get hurt.
someone's gonna get, and it's not someone's gonna get hit, someone's gonna get killed from the speeding, and it's, you know, like I said, it's not necessarily that they're just going 55, 60 down a back road. It's got to be 80, 90 mile an hour. It's crazy fast. And I'm like I said, I'm kind of at a loss of what we can do about it now, you know.
He's probably doing it other places. Hopefully he'll get nailed when he's in more,
Yeah, but the biggest
More
worry is
populated area,
between point A to
because-
point B, who's gonna be affected by this kid and the way he's driving?
Yeah, yep. If someone were to
You
pull
know,
off McKinley
Could be
Road,
you,
you
could
know,
be me, could be
and not
Mike.
see him,
No, I've
or
run
not
through the
expect
ditch
him to be
many
going that
times.
fast,
Oh,
to think
yeah.
that, oh, he's only going 40, he pulls off, you know, someone pulls off McKinley and he's going 90, he's gonna kill someone. Going, you know, just seeing what happened at 24th and Dove with the car evading
Yeah,
the
that
police.
was awful.
I mean, I
That
missed that
woman
accident by about 2 minutes. If I would have left work 2 minutes earlier, I would have been right in that intersection. I came right up on it after it happened, and it blew my mind as to the debris that was everywhere, scattered. I knew immediately. I'm like, this was no ordinary fender bender. It was kind of an eye opener for me, especially thinking, holy cow, it's unbelievable the damage that was done. And then to see some punk kid doing the same thing down my road, I'm thinking, yeah, someone's gonna pull out of their driveway like they normally do every morning, and he's gonna cream them, and their car is gonna go flying, and he's gonna end up killing someone, you know. And
Right.
it's really, like I said, it's gotten out of hand. It's not only that he's fast driving, it's reckless, you know, and no concern for anybody.
And, you know, and when Meldrum gets really bad with all the big holes and stuff, it doesn't slow him down either. And you know, when you drive, like, with the pickup truck, I used to have my newer ones, not so bad, but you know, the bed of your truck starts bouncing all over
You
the
lose
place.
traction.
Yeah.
They're gonna lose control, and there's been people in our ditch, and it's like, serves you right, but, I mean, slow down.
Does it seem to be like the general consensus that this is like pre-work, post-work kind of thing?
No,
Like
it's all day long, because I walk my dog, like, I try to pick the quietest time of day, which is about 1,
Mhm.
and I still encounter people that, they're driving like this. You know, they don't see anything other than, I don't know what they're looking at, actually, can't tell.
Like on my road, it's definitely, it picks up a lot in the morning when
Yeah,
people are going.
Springboard
And same thing, you know, by 4 to 6 at night, it's you know, a lot of people. This kid in particular, it's like clockwork. 7:15, he's coming by my house every single day. Coming home, I think sometimes he maybe takes different routes home because I might not see him every day coming home, but every day going down, you know, eastbound on Lindsay Road, it's like clockwork. I left my house at 7:13 the other morning, and I wasn't even at his house. There was nobody on the road when I pulled out my driveway, and I go 40, 45, you know, depending on how bad the road is. I wasn't even at his house, less than a mile away, and he was already on my butt, doing everything he could to get around me. He's like clockwork, you know, and I can guarantee when he'll be coming through. And like I said, it's bad. You know, someone's really gonna, you know,
There
feel
was
the
a
effects of
thread
it.
like similar to that going on from the Marine City Facebook page the other day, and 3 people said they actually pulled over and let those people pass, and it's like, no,
yeah.
I'm not pulling over onto a shoulder to let somebody pass me like that. Not
Yeah.
when they want to go 80 and the speed limit's 55, you know?
Yep.
But
I've got a couple cats on my farm, and I lock them in my shop at night because I don't want the coyotes to get to them.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a big thing. You know, they do a really good job mousing, and unfortunately my shop is on the north side of the road, my farm's on the south side of the road, and I will actually wait to let them out until he passes, because I know if I let them out and they are happening to cross the road at the wrong time, he's going to cream them, and I know he won't stop. You know, the other morning I left them locked in because it was raining, you know, and I leave them locked in so they don't get all muddy, but that's why I left a little bit earlier. But I'll actually wait till he goes by before I let the cats out, just for that fear that he's going to mow them over, you know.
So I'll talk to our day shift supervisor, just let him know, especially at least in the 2 areas.
Yeah, they can park by my shop. You got a nice little hiding spot. You can just sit right there. Won't even see you park there
would
until he
just
goes
love to watch
flying
the
by.
action, right?
You know, if I'm there or not, I don't care. Just as long as something gets done about this kid before somebody gets hurt, you know. And I'd really hate to see him get, you know, a ticket and then continue to do what he's doing. I'm kind of hoping that if someone does stop him and at least maybe reams his ass out a little bit,
Because a lot
that
of times, once they get their maximum amount of tickets and they don't have a license anymore, they keep driving anyway.
yeah. Well, like I said, with this kid, he looks like a real winner. So who knows if he even has a license, you know?
Right.
But
Yeah,
it's,
I'll shoot that over to our day shift supervisor.
yeah. The sheriff said he was going to put the paper in the car that is parked at China Township. So that's got his name, his address, description of the vehicle, and the times he comes through. So otherwise, I'm glad to give it to you again.
What kind of
Somebody's
places?
gotta stop that. That's
Yeah.
just too bad.
Like I said, I understand it's 55. I try not to complain too much, but he knows this particular driver is it's dangerous. It's extremely dangerous, and that's been my biggest concern is especially with it getting warmer. You know, a lot of people have golf carts. You know, a lot of people walk. I'd really hate to see someone get hit by him because it's not going to end up being pretty.
And I think that was a big thing from last year too, from China, and I can only imagine it's the same thing here in Casco, is that the dirt roads seem to get used and abused by
Yeah.
Teenagers,
those.
the younger crowd.
Sure.
Especially during the night when they want to go baseball bat or mailbox baseball.
When I first moved out here 12 years ago, car full of teenagers hauling butt up Melvin Road so they can go airborne over the overpass for 94 and crashed on the other side. Remember that one? It's like, really, if you have a death wish, don't involve people around you. Why do you have to do that?
Some of the more South Melbourne kids are grown up, and some of that has stopped recently because, yeah, there were 2 families south of me, but they're into other things now because they're adults. But
I see a lady walking her 2 golden retrievers down the road, and I'm doing 15 on the opposite side of the road away from her. Nice and slow and easy. As soon as I get past her, some other car comes by and dusts her. You know, it's like, really? Do you have some consideration? The woman's trying to breathe air. We all know how nasty and dusty the roads are. Slow down. Show some respect. I mean,
What kind of places have you found that trail cameras have been most useful? Where they're placed and for what purposes? Because you've mentioned it,
Yep.
it's been mentioned a number of times.
So every house is different, right? And what is it that every house setup is different. There's, you know, the driveway's different, your access is different, things like that, right? So what you're looking for is, you almost got to play the devil's advocate. Like, if I was going to break into my own home, right? If I was going to park my car in my home, like, where would I park? Right? You got a long driveway, okay, you probably hit it at the entrance or somewhere, you know, a little bit in, right? So that way it's coming in, the car's going, you know. Oftentimes, if you pull in, you're either going to back in, or if there's a turnaround, you think of those things, right? Okay, so where's the best advantageous place for me to get a license plate? You know, practice that on yourself. If I drive my car up and down, nope, can't get it. You know, I've had that before where people have parked, you know, have had to move their camera several times because they keep practicing it on themselves and like, okay, if I'm going to do this, where would I go, or, you know, whatnot.
Do you put them out, do you have folks that use them all the time, or just put them out when they think there's going to be, or there has been a problem in the area?
So I think that somebody's going to break into my house probably 365 days a year.
So in other words, people keep them out there
Oh, yeah.
on a continuing basis?
Yes. Yep.
And you just put a big chip in them?
Yep. Or they, you know, and I'm not advocating one version or another, and I'm, you know, and camera systems, period, they work out. Okay. So I've seen people that seem to like the ones that you can download wirelessly on your smartphone. So all you have to do is walk by them and they can download all the information, scroll through it. Yep, nothing happened this week. Delete it all. You know, if you don't care about Woody the Woodpecker that's knocking on your tree, you can just delete them all and call it a day, right? Or whatever it is that you're looking for.
hummingbirds like the cameras because we have like 7 cameras in our house, but we have the DVRs that record it.
Yep.
Hummingbirds love those cameras.
Sure. Sure. So it all goes down to, you know, how much money financially can you or are you willing to spend, right? What is it? How many cameras do you want to put up? What are you willing to do? How many times do you want to pull the card out? Because you can buy a card that has, I think they're getting up to like terabyte now in a card, right?
Yep.
Right.
They
The
cost
more
more than
memory,
the
the more
camera.
money, but on the same token, that's less times you got to go to the tree and pull them out. So all those things you start weighing into, going back to being prepared and making a plan, right? So you want to make a plan and be prepared. Talk to some hunters, too, if that's something you're thinking about. Hey, if you had a card and you put, what size card do you use? How many times do you have to go get it changed out, right? And that gives you an idea. Depending on where you go, sometimes the sales rep will tell you the same thing. You're able to go online and look at that product as far as reviews. The more reviews things have, the better they are. Oftentimes, I find that you get the best reviews on something if it's got something less than 4 stars. Not that it's a bad product, but people are going to be writing up the pros and cons from both sides, right? So it doesn't matter what the product is. I'm buying sneakers. I'm looking at something with 3 stars. Why? Because it's got 47 posts on it, all the good and all the bad, right? So different things to look at as far as a customer goes. And then where you place them is all based on, think of yourself as being the criminal. If I had to break into this house, how many different ways would I do it, right? So like my house, there's only one way you could do it. And when it happened before, this is exactly the way that they chose. So if I'm going to set up something, where am I going to set it up? I'd set it up here and I'd set it up here. Right? So that's me thinking like a bad guy. So try to put yourself in that situation, think of it in that regards, and then make a plan accordingly.
I put a camera system up on my farmhouse, and it was mainly because when my grandmother was still alive, people would come to the door and she would just open the door for them. Basically let them in, and we had to convince the grandma, no, if you don't know who it is, look at the camera first. If you know who it is, then go answer the door. If you don't know who it is, then just don't even answer the door. But when I put them up, I made sure that they covered every door on the house. There's a front door, a side door, and a back door. So there's a camera that covers each one of them. And I had one camera left over. We have a garage that's not attached. I put it on the garage facing the house, so if a car were to pull in, you could get a good view of that car. Now, when I purchased them, the quality of them wasn't the best. I didn't spend a lot of money, and I'm probably actually going to upgrade to some newer ones, because the newer technology, the pictures are so clear, you can get a good picture, give it to the sheriff, and they can probably, I think, even go deeper to get like a license plate number on it or something like that. But I kind of did the same thing, if I'm going to break into this house, how am I going to do it? Well, I'm probably going to try the doors, and I think sometimes just a criminal seeing that red light, especially at night, because they have a little red light and a little green light.
Our camera aims right at the stairway, so it's like, oh, got me already.
Yep. That you're on camera before you even come up to the house, and I think sometimes that would deter someone knowing, oh, I'm already on camera, I better just turn around and leave,
And people over, we're hanging around outside. Guys like to go pee outside. We always warn them.
I've got a separate camera on my shop, which is across the road, and that one is actually wireless. I could pull it up right now and see if there's anybody parked in front of my shop, which is kind of nice because when I'm at work, I can pull it up. Now, the ones that I had in the house, like I said, they're a little bit older. That's kind of another reason why I want to upgrade them. I'm gone from work all day. It's nice to be able to look at your phone and go, oh yeah, there's nothing going on, or hey, someone just pulled in. Sometimes they'll alert you if they get action, they'll ding on my phone to say, hey, someone, this camera has viewed something or whatever. Like you say, the birds and the bees, sometimes, a bee will set it off or whatever, flying around, but just having that sense of security, it's nice knowing that, if something were to happen, we can go back to that camera
and if
see.
FedEx claims they delivered your digital camera to your house and they really didn't, they come to win your battle.
Yeah.
Well,
All right.
anybody got anything, or?
So I'll make sure to bring up the dirt road side morning and afternoon specifically to the day shift bosses, and maybe we can have that be.
I
like I
actually
said.
saw a state police trailblazer. The big GMC.
Parked down the road.
No, it actually drove really fast down Meldrum. He was under the speed limit, but he was going
Those
pretty
are-
quick.
He was parked down the road when I came home from work the other day.
Now, this was a couple weeks ago, and it's like, kind of setting an example here.
That's usually the Waymaster, commercial vehicle enforcement.
Yeah, because there was one of the SUVs.
Yep.
All right, well, if nobody has anything else, I'll get with Mr. Baumgarten and start looking at the website for us, and then that'll get a couple other guys to do the same, and we'll keep keeping each other posted, and then
Okay.
I'll have a good one for the next time too, so.
Yep.
All right.
All right,
Everybody keep up the good work. Watch out.
Yeah.
The weather's starting to warm up a few degrees,
Don't
so
say
you
that, you're gonna
know.
jinx it.
I'm not jinxing.
Okay, well, thanks everybody for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for having me.
Glad to hear about
Train, yeah.
whenever she's done